Every story has an author. Every author has a story. Join us for off-the-page interviews, inside stories, and a look into the world of publishing. This is Page Turners. Welcome to Page Turners. I'm your host, Hilary Kennedy, and today my guest spent a week in 1969 hearing the life story of a man named Emmett Long. And now, 49 years later, he's unleashed these unforgettable stories in his new book, Selectively Lawless, The True Story of Emmett Long, an American original. Asa Dunnington, welcome to Page Turners.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm fascinated by this book. You have a main character in the book named Emmett Long. He's a very unforgettable man. Tell me about your relationship with him, and how did you meet him? What was he like?
Emmett was my uncle by marriage, and the first time I met him was 11 years after I'd been married to his niece. We were in, he owned a motel in Cuesta, New Mexico, which is above Las Cruces, and he invited us to vacation there. So we went there, and I met Emmett for the first time. He was 65 years old, still imposing. He was 6'1", about 215, so he got your attention. But he was a very soft-spoken guy, and we just seemed to bond from the beginning. And I had always wanted to know more about him because I'd heard, stories from the family, but I didn't know what was true. Anyway, we spent that week together, working together, and sometimes I was working the cash register in the general store or, helping him clean up rooms. But we soon began to talk about his life story. And he knew, I guess, I have a way with words, and he just assumed and had been told, I think, that I wanted to write his story. So we talked through that week, and I got the whole story from him. We knew that I didn't record anything.
Wow, so you had to keep it all up here.
I didn't take any notes then or later.
Wow.
And we just agreed that I would write the story after he passed away.
Well, so what made you want to share his story with the world? Because there had to be some things about it that you thought, everybody needs to hear this.
I was always fascinated with Reader's Digest's My Most Unforgettable Character, and Emmett was mine. And he has such a colorful story to tell. I just knew that everybody ought to hear it. Emmett was a unique character. He was a good judge of character. He was gifted with common sense, and he had guts. And that was proven in the book by robbing a bank in Texas on a Saturday night, ripping off Caesar's Palace for $500,000 over a period of 2 weeks. And he was just an exceptional person. He was a man's man. He did things that people would not even attempt.
I mean, it sounds like he was an incredibly fearless person. I mean, the things that he has done and gotten away with.
Right.
That is amazing. So you interviewed him back in 1969. Why did you choose to write Emmett's story now?
My ex-wife, his niece, died in 2015. And we had divorced in 1992, so I lost track of Emmett. He died in 1993, but I didn't know that. Anyway, his only child, living child, his daughter, attended my ex-wife's funeral, and she had been told by her dad that I would write his life story. So she asked my son to get in touch with her, and we talked and agreed that now was the time to tell it.
Wow. So how did you decide to come up with the title Selectively Lawless?
That's interesting. I couldn't decide on the exact title that I wanted to use. And it was weeks and weeks, and I asked his daughter to come up with suggestions. I asked our ghostwriter to come up with suggestions, and I prayed about it. Yeah. And I really think the answer was inspirational, because I was sound asleep one night and woke up and had Selectively Lawless on my mind, and
wow.
That's
just
how it came about.
To you, yeah, in the night. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so Emmett sounds like he was quite the character. Do you have a favorite story from Emmett's life that you can share with us?
I do. He spent 2.5 years in Leavenworth Federal Prison. He got caught coming out of a still with products. And anyway, he spent 2.5 years there. He was 26 years old when he went to prison. But he refused to comply with the rule that you lock your cell behind you. He would never lock his cell. And so the guards would write him up for it, and eventually he would be sent to the warden, and the warden asked him, "Son, why don't you lock your cell behind you?"
Right.
And Emmett said, "Sir, man was not meant to be in a cage."
Wow.
That was his only infraction.
He just didn't want that lock.
He just wouldn't do it.
How interesting. Well, so he was an outlaw. Then he turned civic leader and a philanthropist. Tell me about those changes in his life, because he really went from one extreme to the other.
He did. He was the son of a lay minister. I never heard profanity out of his mouth. And he married at 40. And when he got married and became a father, his focus was on his family. And he lived in Cache, Oklahoma most of his life, and he was very close. Well, he was a rodeo. He owned a rodeo grounds that he put on rodeos for the people in that part of Oklahoma. And so he was always fond of the people. And when the schools would come to him needing contributions for equipment or whatever, the first time that happened, he went to his bedroom, came back with a pillowcase full of money and dumped it on the table and said, "Take what you need."
Wow. He just sounds like the most fascinating guy. So after your interaction with him during that week, how did it change you? How did listening to his stories change you?
Oh, I was honored realizing that I was going to be the only one telling the story. And even his daughter found out many things about him when I wrote what I wrote.
Wow, so even his family found out things they didn't know.
No.
All right, so if you could ask Emmett just one more question, if there was something that maybe you didn't cover the first time, what would it be?
Well, he was a personal friend of Pretty Boy Floyd.
Oh, wow.
And he once had dinner with Bonnie and Clyde. And so the question that would come to mind, that I would like to have asked, is when you were with Pretty Boy Floyd and Bonnie and Clyde, when they were just being themselves, what were they like?
Would that not be so interesting to know what they were like when they were just hanging out, having a regular dinner?
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Well, I am super excited for people to read the book, Selectively Lawless, The True Story of Emmett Long, an American Original. Thank you so much for being here today, Asa. This has been so much fun. And I hope that you will join us the next time, because we're going to continue talking to Asa Dunnington about his book and his creative writing process and what it was like publishing with Brown Books. So please join us next time on Page Turners.